Chapter 1: The Letter from the Dead. A rainy afternoon in Elias Ward's old apartment in Boston. Opening. Elias Ward, a scholar specializing in supernatural phenomena, lives reclusively in an apartment filled with ancient books and occult manuscripts. After years of staying away from field work, he receives a strange envelope in the mail. There is no return address, no postmark, only his name written in black ink in a handwriting he recognizes all too well. The content of the letter reads, "Elias, if you still believe in the other side, come to the place I have gone. I don't have much time left. They hold me here, where time does not flow. Don't trust what you see. Follow the map. Warning, once you enter, there will be no turning back. Jonathan." Jonathan Rake, Elias's close friend, has been missing for 7 years. Elias himself had searched for him unsuccessfully and eventually believed his friend had died during an expedition in the mountains of Vermont. The strange map. Inside the envelope is an old, roughly drawn piece of paper with notes in an ancient language, mixed with alchemic symbols. It points to a forested area in the north, beyond the official borders of any map, unlabeled and nameless. The first incident. As Elias sets the letter down, the lights in the room suddenly go out. He steps outside to check and sees a shadowy figure standing across the street in the rain. The figure stands still, not moving, with no visible face. When Elias looks again, it has vanished. But the floor where he stands is wet, soaked as if from rain, despite the window being closed. Ending of the chapter. Elias regains his composure, packs his belongings, taking along his spiritual research tools and an old gun. He looks at the map and whispers, "If Jonathan is truly alive, I will find him, even if I have to step into hell." He steps out the door, unaware that this journey will be his last as a man. 2. The Nameless Gate. Setting: the deep forest in northern Vermont, where the map ends, but the road continues. Opening of the chapter. Elias drives along the deserted roads, following the ancient map with growing skepticism. The GPS doesn't work. His phone signal completely disappears as he crosses a dilapidated stone bridge leading into the ancient forest. The scenery becomes increasingly strange. Towering trees covered in moss as though untouched by human hands. Winds blow in opposite directions, and the forest birds fall silent, as if Elias has stepped into a forgotten world. The first supernatural event. Near dusk, Elias comes across an unnamed trail, blocked by 2 towering stone pillars covered in moss. On top of the pillars is an engraving of the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, a symbol of eternal time. At the base of the pillars, old ritual offerings are scattered. Clay jars, small bone figures, tattered ropes. He places his hand on one of the stone pillars and immediately hears a whisper as if it's coming from deep within the earth. The blood bearer has arrived. Elias jerks his hand away. As he turns to leave, the sky behind him darkens, as if something is drawing the curtain of night down, marking the path he must follow. The gate opens. The 2 stone pillars tremble slightly. A white mist rises from the ground, spreading out like a path. Reluctantly, Elias steps forward. The moment he crosses the stone pillars, it feels as though his body is being compressed. The pressure changes, his ears ring, and his watch stops ticking. He looks around. The forest beyond the pillars is completely different. The trees are leafless and the sky is dim with a gray, misty light. It's impossible to tell whether it's day or night. The final incident of the chapter. Elias ventures deeper into the still zone, a name that suddenly echoes in his mind as though he's heard it before. He feels a force watching him from all sides, but when he turns around, there's no one there. In the distance, he hears the sound of bells ringing, each toll deep and resonating as if coming from the bowels of the earth. Elias follows the sound, leading him to a place that seems like it belongs in a nightmare. A nameless ancient village, nestled among the dead tree branches with a clock tower that has been stopped for over a century. End of Chapter 2. Elias enters the village and immediately senses that he has arrived too late for something that happened long ago. 3. The Motionless Village. Setting: the ancient village in the deep forest where time seems to have stopped. Opening of the chapter. Elias steps through the village gate. There is no sign, no guards, just an old stone-paved path leading to the center. Everything is covered in a thick layer of dust, no footprints, Yet it doesn't feel abandoned. The village consists of about 20 small wooden houses with carefully tended gardens. Smoke rises from the chimneys, but there are no sounds of laughter, no barking dogs, no footsteps. In the center of the village stands a large clock tower. The hands of the clock are frozen at 11:59, and Elias realizes time here does not move. The strange encounter. An elderly woman suddenly appears from a house by the road. She is dressed in old-fashioned clothes, as if from the 19th century, holding a basket of dried lavender. She looks at Elias as though she has known him for a long time. "You've come. Finally, you've come. Who are you?" Elias asks. "The keeper of the tower is waiting for you. Don't let the clock strike 12. Before Elias can ask anything further, she turns and disappears behind a hedge. When he tries to chase after her, only the basket of lavender is left on the road, still warm, as if it was just held. Exploring the village, Elias walks around the village. The doors of the houses are slightly ajar. Inside each house, he sees the villagers, frozen like living wax figures. A man holds a teacup, his hand motionless. A little girl plays with a doll, her eyelids fluttering slowly, as if trapped in an unending sleep. What's more disturbing, they are breathing, a soft, steady breath. But no one reacts when Elias calls out to them. He heads toward the clock tower. The clock tower. The tower door is wide open. Inside, a wooden staircase leads to the top. Each step creaks slightly, though Elias doesn't feel any change in gravity. At the top, he finds a small room with a wooden chair. Upon it sits a dried, mummified corpse, dressed in an old priest's attire, clutching the clock's control mechanism. Its face is contorted in immense pain, yet it hasn't decayed. The clock reads the year 1849, the last recorded time it stopped. Elias touches the corpse and suddenly, rang, rang. The sound of the clock's bell rings once, automatically. The hands of the clock shift slightly, moving to exactly 12 o'clock. The final incident of the chapter. Before the second bell can ring, the entire village of villagers opens their eyes, all at once. Elias turns around and stumbles down the stairs, his heart pounding wildly. The once silent sounds now become alive. Doors creak open, footsteps echo, whispers start to fill the village. A voice rings in Elias's mind, not a human voice. The blood-bearer has awakened the still zone. End of chapter hides in the clock tower, looking down at the village, where the once motionless villagers are beginning to move, as if they had never stopped for hundreds of years. Chapter 4. The Clock Without Hands. The next morning, if morning even exists in the still zone, the light is still dim, like an eternal twilight. Elias leaves the clock tower after a night of frantic fear and confusion. Opening of the chapter. Elias finds an abandoned house on the outskirts of the village. It's covered in dust and cobwebs, but unlike the other houses, there's no one here. No personal belongings, as though no one has ever lived in it. In the living room, Elias discovers something strange. A wall-mounted ebony clock, missing its hands, yet the glass face pulses with light like a breath. Beneath the clock, a handwritten inscription reads, "Only those outside of time can see time." The supernatural event. Elias gazes at the clock's face. At first, nothing happens, but when he touches the glass, the surrounding space shifts. The walls around the clock dissolve like smoke, revealing a memory of the village. He sees the villagers gathered around the clock tower in 1849, performing a strange ritual. In the center of the square, a child is bound to a stone pillar, blood dripping to the ground, mixing with symbols drawn in charcoal. A man in a black cloak, unlike the priest, is chanting in a strange language, and the air begins to tremble. As the ritual nears completion, light bursts from the clock tower, and time stops. Everything freezes. Elias is forcefully pushed out of the clock's vision. The clock shatters as he falls to the floor. Inside, there are no hands, no gears, only a glass eye slowly closing. At that moment, slow footsteps echo from upstairs, as if someone is waking up from a long sleep. The confrontation. A man appears at the top of the stairs. He wears an old-fashioned waistcoat, his tall, thin figure almost ghostly, his skin so white it's nearly translucent. "You've seen it, haven't you?" His voice is steady, emotionless. "Who are you?" Elias steps back. "The keeper of time. But now there is nothing left to guard. The clock has called your name." Elias wants to ask more, but the man suddenly vanishes into the air, as if he had never existed. Only the echo of his voice remains. 12 hours. When the clock tolls its 12th bell, you must choose. Elias looks back at the broken pieces of the clock. The glass eye is now wide open. Inside the pupil, his own reflection stares back at him, but his reflection is smiling. Chapter 5. The Noon Song. Setting. After leaving the house with the broken clock, Elias decides to explore the western part of the village, an area that has not been marked on the old map, where no one has appeared. Opening of the chapter. As Elias steps onto the path leading to the western area, he notices that the ground begins to change. The moss underfoot is soft like velvet, and the air carries a faint fragrance of lilacs, though no flowers are in sight. It's noon, according to his own sense of time, not the sun, when the bell from the clock tower rings again. It's not loud, not rushed, but it reverberates like a reminder deep within his bones. The song begins. Right after the bell, Elias hears a female voice, clear and sorrowful, coming from the forest beyond a hill. The melody sounds like an ancient lullaby. The words are unclear, but they carry the cadence of a long-forgotten language. The song causes Elias to freeze. He feels it's familiar, like he's heard it as a child, in a dream, or from someone who's long gone. Unable to resist the pull, Elias follows the voice. Meeting the girl by the lake. Through a barren forest, Elias reaches a calm lake, its surface as smooth as a mirror. By the lake sits a girl in a white dress, her back to him, with her feet dipped in the water. "I've been waiting for you for a long time, Elias," she says without turning. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" Elias asks cautiously. The girl turns around. Her face has no eyes, no mouth, just a hollow space like mist, but her voice clearly resonates in Elias's mind. "I am the first one to be kept here, and I remember everything. This village? Is it a trap? No, it's a covenant, a cycle, and you are the first crack." The warning, the girl points to the lake. The water begins to turn into a mirror, reflecting Elias's own image. But behind him, in the reflection, there are dozens of shadowy figures approaching, their faces twisted, their eyes empty. They think you are the one who unlocked it. They will try to persuade you, or tear you apart. "I need to find my friend, Jonathan. Is he still alive?" The girl falls silent, then whispers, "He used to be you, but he is no longer Jonathan. If you meet him again, don't look into his eyes." The event at the end of the chapter. Suddenly, the sky shakes. A tear in the air, as dark as ink, appears above the lake's surface. From it, a giant hand, covered in eyes and mouths, reaches out as if to grab Elias. The girl screams, "Run! You're not ready to see what is awakening." Elias stumbles backward, running from the lakeside, but he still hears the song, now turning into anguished cries, echoing endlessly. End of chapter 5. Elias hides in the forest, sitting among the leaves, gasping for breath. His hand tightly clutches a torn piece of fabric, a part of the white dress, left behind by the girl. The Salt Chapel. After returning from the lake, Elias wanders south of the village, where the misty tree canopies give way to an open, flat space like an abandoned square. Opening of the chapter. In the center of the open land, Elias sees a small, pale white building, almost blending into the mist. The roof is conical, the double doors are decayed, and the walls are made of solid salt blocks, gleaming faintly when weak light shines upon them. On the door, there is a simple yet unsettling symbol, a circle bisected by a straight knife-like cut. Looking at it feels like being stabbed in the mind. Inside the chapel, the door opens by itself as Elias approaches, making a sound like the cracking of shattered crystals. A cold breeze sweeps out, carrying the scent of ash and long-extinguished incense. Inside, there is only a stone altar, a candle holder full of partially burned candles, and a large mirror covered with a black cloth, placed in the center, dominating the space. Elias touches the altar, feeling the salty, stingy texture on his hands like dried blood. The memory returns. As soon as he touches the mirror, the cloth flies up, revealing the dim mirror, not reflecting Elias, but a 12-year-old boy kneeling in the middle of the room. The boy is crying. A group of people in black cloaks stands around. A deep voice resonates from behind the mirror. Salt holds memory, salt holds the soul, and blood is the price for time to stop flowing. Elias realizes the boy is himself. This image is a part of his past that he had never remembered. He sees himself being offered as a replacement child, the one to be sacrificed instead of the original chosen one. The priestess appears. A figure appears behind Elias, a blind woman dressed in a long gray robe holding a small silver bell. She doesn't look at him, but speaks as if reading from within him. You shouldn't have returned. You were taken out of here to forget. But now you've touched the mirror. The gate is opening again. Who am I? Why am I here? Elias asks, his voice trembling. You are the backup, the one who replaced Jonathan that year. And now Jonathan has called you back. But he is no longer human. She rings the bell. The mirror shatters. From within the mirror, blood-written words crawl up the chapel's wall. 12 tones, 12 memories, 12 gates. Each bell toll, one awakening. The event at the end of the chapter. The chapel door slams shut suddenly. The mirror breaks into salt dust, swirling in a vortex in the air. The blind woman turns back one last time. If you still hear the song, it's not too late. But if the song turns into laughter, run, no matter the cost. End of chapter 6. Elias steps out of the chapel. On his hand now appears a salt tattoo in the shape of a bisected circle, just like the symbol on the door. It is bleeding. In the wind, faintly, a song echoes again, but this time mixed within it is a soft, eerie laugh. Chapter 7. Setting. After leaving the salt chapel, Elias follows the faint laughter blending with the broken song. He is guided by instinct and fragmented memories, along with the only name that still anchors him to reality, Jonathan. Opening of the chapter. Elias returns to the center of the village, where the clock tower casts long shadows on the moss-covered ground. There is no wind, no birds. Everything is utterly silent. In the square, there is someone waiting. Their back is turned to Elias, a tall figure dressed in a dark, worn cloak, the cuffs ragged as if they had been singed by fire. As Elias steps closer, the figure slowly turns their head. An unusual reunion. Elias. The voice is familiar but distorted, as though someone is mimicking it. Jonathan? I am still me, but I have seen things I should not have seen, heard things I should not have heard. Jonathan's gaze pierces through Elias, his eyes no longer brown, but a clock face spinning slowly, the hands moving backward in time. You should not have returned. I tried to keep you out, but I am growing weaker. Jonathan steps forward, his hand outstretched. Elias reaches out to take it, but a second hand emerges from Jonathan's chest, grabbing Elias's hand first. It is cold as stone, and strangely familiar. The forced memory. As their hands touch, Elias cannot move. Images flood his mind, a memory locked away. He sees two boys, himself and Jonathan, playing in the forest near the village. A cave sealed with salt, a ritual interrupted. Elias screams, I will take your place. Jonathan shakes his head, but it is too late. The light from the clock tower envelops Elias. The reality shatters. Jonathan is no longer entirely human. From his shoulders and neck, pieces of clockwork, springs, and gears emerge through his skin. Every time he speaks, the sound of metal clashing softly echoes. I've been here for 12 cycles. Each bell toll erases part of me. I remember you, but now I also remember everything I shouldn't. So why did I come back? Because you are the last one who can choose. Choose what? To keep it or end the loop. The event at the end of the chapter. Suddenly, Jonathan collapses, crying out in pain. On his back, a third eye opens, and from it, a deep voice speaks. Not Jonathan's. Awaken. The 12th cycle. The choice will come when blood meets time. The wind picks up. The clock tower bell tolls the third chime, though no one can see the hands move. Elias steps back in panic. Jonathan looks at him, his final human eye bleeding, and whispers, If you are still you, don't let yourself be called by name again. End of chapter 7. Elias runs from the square. In the distance, the clock tower trembles, and pale red light begins to seep from the cracks in the wall. In the wind, the song rises again. This time, the melody matching the lullaby Jonathan once sang when they were children. Chapter 8. The Renamed Ones. Setting. After fleeing the square and his haunting encounter with Jonathan, Elias takes refuge in the northern forest, where the trees have white trunks devoid of leaves or shadows. There is no sound, no scent, only the absolute silence of emptiness. Opening of the chapter. Elias moves deeper into the forest, feeling as though he has entered a space without gravity. His feet still touch the ground, but every movement slows, as if swimming through thick water. When he touches a tree trunk, the bark crumbles away. Inside is not wood, but paper. On each fragment of paper, there are handwritten lines, faded as if washed away by rain. I used to be Micah. My name used to be Ruth, I have forgotten. Do not call my name, he will know. Elias realizes the entire forest is a floating library of forgotten names. The encounter with the chronicler. In the center of the forest, Elias finds a small shack made of branches and woven strands of hair. Inside is a humanoid creature, hunched over with fingers as long as quills, constantly writing on an endless scroll of paper. No words are spoken, but Elias hears the voice of the creature echoing in his head, dry and dusty. You are the lost name. I am Elias. No, you are the last name that has not been erased, and for that you are a danger. Elias asks, what about these people? Who are they? They are those who entered the still zone without being chosen. Their names were changed. Now they exist only on paper, not to be remembered, not to be called. The nameless ones appear. From the tree trunks, faint shadows of people begin to emerge, faceless, voiceless, each one wearing a piece of paper pinned to their chest with scribbled words, I have sinned. They do not attack Elias. They simply surround him, their touch light as smoke, trying to pull him toward the center of the forest, where there is a bottomless well. The chronicler's voice echoes again. You can keep your name, but it comes at a price. A name is a bond. A name is power. Once you understand that, you will understand you can either call them back or bury them forever. The event at the end of the chapter. Elias steps back, about to flee, when he steps on a broken tree. Inside the hollow trunk is a blood-stained scroll with the name, Jonathan, crossed out 4 times, beneath which is a new name, 12th Eye. Elias looks at the nameless figures surrounding him, shouting, I remember your names. I can help. They stop. A shadowy figure steps forward, a smoky hand lifting Elias's chin. Then you will be the one to write next. Write what? Write the names of those who are about to lose themselves. End of the chapter. The chronicler dissolves into the air, leaving behind a blood-stained quill stuck in the ground. Paper from the tree trunks flies toward Elias, wrapping around him, printing a multitude of names on his skin. But only one shines, Elias. And the bell tolls, the 4th. Chapter 9. The Door Without End. Setting. Carrying the blood-stained quill and fragments of paper with names carved on them, Elias leaves the nameless forest behind. The night blankets the sky of the still zone, though he knows the sun has never set here. Guiding him is a faint streak of light, like a cold fire trail running along the ground, leading to an open space he has never seen before, a void, with no earth, no wind, no gravity. Opening of the chapter. In the middle of the void stands an old wooden door, standing alone, with no walls, no frame, and no hinges. On the surface of the door, hundreds of rusted locks are piled on top of each other, each engraved with names, but the names have been scratched out. Elias approaches, and the quill in his hand automatically draws a symbol on the door. A counterclockwise spiral. One lock falls off. Then a second. Then dozens more crumble into dust. The door does not open to what is behind it, but opens straight into Elias himself. The journey through himself. Elias falls into the door as if pulled into an endless abyss. But instead of darkness, he's countless versions of Elias, each walking a different path. One Elias who never returned to the village. One Elias who accepted being renamed in place of Jonathan. One Elias who became the chronicler. And one Elias who opened this door too early, torn into fragmented, hazy memories. All of them look toward the present Elias, but no one speaks, only nodding slowly, as if passing on a power. The room of choices. At the end of the journey, Elias steps into a circular room, the walls made of broken mirrors, each reflecting a possibility that has been rejected. In the center of the room is a stone table. On it, 3 objects: a rusted knife, a white, expressionless mask, an hourglass with sand only in the upper half. The voice, formless and ancient, not Jonathan's, nor the chronicler's, but something older, as if belonging to the space itself, echoes, choose, only once. The knife is for ending. The mask is for hiding. The hourglass is for a new beginning, but it does not preserve memory. Elias looks at the items. His hand trembles. He remembers Jonathan. He remembers the chronicler. He remembers the nameless ones. He asks, What if I don't choose? The voice responds, then the others will choose for you. The event at the end of the chapter. Elias raises his hand, not touching any of the items, but instead using the blood quill to draw the spiral symbol on the stone table. The room shakes. All the broken mirrors glow, and the other Eliases scream in unison, as if the present Elias just shattered some boundary. The door opens again. This time, it does not pull Elias in, but opens into an endless hallway with hundreds of doors on either side, each bearing the name of those who have vanished from the memories of the still zone. End of the chapter. Elias steps into the hallway, the door behind him closing. On his back, the salt tattoo begins to shift from a split circle into the shape of a spiraling eye. The fifth bell tolls. In the distance, someone whispers, "He refused all three, so now he will have to choose between the living and those who no longer have names." Chapter 9, The Door Without End. Setting, carrying the blood-stained quill and fragments of paper with names carved on them, Elias leaves the nameless forest behind. The night blankets the sky of the still zone, though he knows the sun has never set here. Guiding him is a faint streak of light, like a cold fire trail running along the ground, leading to an open space he has never seen before, a void, with no earth, no wind, no gravity. Opening of the chapter. In the middle of the void stands an old wooden door, standing alone, with no walls, no frame, and no hinges. On the surface of the door, hundreds of rusted locks are piled on top of each other, each engraved with names, but the names have been scratched out. Elias approaches, and the quill in his hand automatically draws a symbol on the door. A counterclockwise spiral. One lock falls off. Then a second. Then dozens more crumble into dust. The door does not open to what is behind it, but opens straight into Elias himself. The journey through himself. Elias falls into the door as if pulled into an endless abyss. But instead of darkness, he's countless versions of Elias, each walking a different path. One Elias who never returned to the village. One Elias who accepted being renamed in place of Jonathan. One Elias who became the chronicler. And one Elias who opened this door too early, torn into fragmented, hazy memories. All of them look toward the present Elias, but no one speaks, only nodding slowly, as if passing on a power. The room of choices. At the end of the journey, Elias steps into a circular room, the walls made of broken mirrors, each reflecting a possibility that has been rejected. In the center of the room is a stone table. On it, 3 objects: a rusted knife, a white, expressionless mask, an hourglass with sand only in the upper half. The voice, formless and ancient, not Jonathan's, nor the chronicler's, but something older, as if belonging to the space itself, echoes, "Choose, only once." The knife is for ending. The mask is for hiding. The hourglass is for a new beginning, but it does not preserve memory. Elias looks at the items. His hand trembles. He remembers Jonathan. He remembers the chronicler. He remembers the nameless ones. He asks, "What if I don't choose?" The voice responds, "Then the others will choose for you." The event at the end of the chapter. Elias raises his hand, not touching any of the items, but instead using the blood quill to draw the spiral symbol on the stone table. The room shakes. All the broken mirrors glow, and the other Eliases scream in unison, as if the present Elias just shattered some boundary. The door opens again. This time, it does not pull Elias in, but opens into an endless hallway with hundreds of doors on either side, each bearing the name of those who have vanished from the memories of the still zone. End of the chapter. Elias steps into the hallway, the door behind him closing. On his back, the salt tattoo begins to shift from a split circle into the shape of a spiraling eye. The 5th bell tolls. In the distance, someone whispers, "He refused all 3, so now he will have to choose between the living and those who no longer have names." Chapter 10, The Sixth Hand. Elias walks through the endless hallway, doors opening and closing on their own, forming a chaotic, shifting maze with no clear end. He cannot remember how long he's been walking, only that it feels like he's trapped in an infinite loop. The doors around him each bear a name he doesn't recognize, yet they feel strangely familiar, names of the forgotten, souls erased from memory. In this space, every step echoes like a lost recollection. Opening of the chapter. As he walks among the doors, Elias senses a presence in the air, a formless entity watching him. He turns, but there's nothing, only emptiness. Then, at the far end of the hall, a pale blue light suddenly flickers, distant but undeniable. It's not natural light, it's the light of awareness, of being observed not just with eyes, but with mind, soul, or something older still. Elias moves toward the light, a deep instinct pulling him forward, as if something essential awaits. Encounter with the Sixth Hand. At the source of the light, Elias finds a small door, unlike any of the others. It bears no name. Only a black tattoo of a hand is etched onto its surface. This hand has 6 fingers, each finger marked with a strange glyph, symbols that don't belong to this world. As Elias touches the door, the light vanishes. Everything around him becomes oppressively still. Silence so thick it feels like pressure in his chest. Then, from the shadows, a colossal hand emerges. Not a human hand, but a cracked, coarse thing, as if molded from indestructible dust and fractured stone. The hand rests gently on Elias's shoulder, and a voice low as drifting wind whispers, "You think you're the only one in the still zone?" Elias turns, and before him, the vague form of a giant man takes shape from the air. His face is unclear, but his eyes burn bright, locked onto Elias. "I am the Sixth Hand. They call me a scribe, but I do not record stories. I record choices." Revelation about choice. The Sixth Hand tells Elias he is not the only one who has chosen during this journey. Every path, every decision was already traced, not by the people here, but by unseen forces. Acceptors and rejectors, he calls them, formless hands in the dark, but shaping the lives of those who wander into the still zone. You are the final choice. Every turning, every road passes through my fingers. The Sixth Hand steps closer. One elongated finger touches Elias's forehead, and in an instant, a wave of images, foreign memories, crash into his mind. He sees himself standing atop a mountain, looking down into a valley bathed in golden light. A woman in a black cloak stands beside him, her voice deep and solemn. "When you choose, you will not return." Then, a different door. Not one to enter, but to lock away. Elias jolts back, overwhelmed, but the visions cling to him like scars, impossible to erase. Climax of the chapter. As the massive hand withdraws, a new door opens before Elias, this one etched with the shape of an hourglass. He doesn't know if it leads to an end or another choice. A voice returns, echoing in his mind. "What will you choose, Elias? An ending or another beginning?" He steps forward, his hand trembling. Suddenly, a black thread whips from the shadows, pulling him back. Another hand clutches his wrist, not the Sixth Hand, this one soaked in blood. Within it, Elias sees the image of Jonathan. End of chapter 10. Elias yanks his arm free. The hourglass door slams shut before him. But the 6th bell tolls, not from the still zone, but from within himself, like his soul is preparing to be torn in two. He now faces a single decision: enter the hourglass door, or turn and face the darkness behind him. Chapter 11. The Price of Memory. Setting. Elias stands before the hourglass door, where memory and choice intertwine. Each time he gazes at it, the sense of lost memories grows sharper, like an echo from a distant past. He knows that stepping through this door is the only way to uncover the truth about himself and the souls he carries along this journey. Opening of the chapter, Elias stares at the door, the sensation of the bloody hand he just pushed away still lingering on his skin. His head throbs. Every memory that rushes through him crashes like a violent wave, impossible to stop. A voice rises in his mind, not the 6th hand, but something deep within, a warning etched in the core of his being. If you walk through this door, you will lose a part of yourself. Your memories will never fully return. Some will be erased forever. Elias clenches his fists, takes a deep breath. He knows there's no turning back. The nameless souls, the lost shadows of the still zone, they are waiting for him, for release. And perhaps he too needs that release. Meeting the Remaker. As Elias steps through the door, a strange sensation washes over him. His senses stripped away, his thoughts suspended. There is no space, no time, only a foggy white expanse, an undefinable void. Then, from within the chaos, a figure emerges. A tall woman, her face unclear, but her eyes burn like twin flames. She wears a black garment like the cloaks of the forgotten. "You've arrived." "Who are you?" Elias asks, his voice raspy. "I am the Remaker. And I am the price you must pay," she replies, her voice icy. "You must choose between memory and life. Painful choices." She raises her hand and the space around Elias transforms. Suddenly, he stands in a luminous garden filled with glowing golden flowers. But as he looks closer, he realizes each petal is a shattered memory, fragments of a life he once knew. Family, old friends. The world before the still zone claimed him. Choose, the remaker says. There is only one way to free them. Erase your memory, and Elias will cease to exist, but they will be saved. A piercing sorrow cuts through Elias. How can he choose between his memories, the very essence of who he is, and the souls who cling to him, desperate for salvation? How can he destroy the only pieces of himself that remain? Climax of the chapter. Elias looks into the fractured flowers beneath the golden light. A memory flashes, vivid and warm. He sees himself as a child, laughing beneath an old tree with his mother, a moment of pure joy, untouched by the darkness. It's the only memory that feels truly his. And in that moment, he understands, no matter the cost, he cannot abandon who he is. The remaker watches him silently, and for the first time, something like sympathy flickers in her burning eyes. You've chosen, Elias. We will walk this ending together. Elias says nothing, but his eyes shine with clarity. He now knows that even if he must sacrifice his past, he can still save the others, and maybe, just maybe, rediscover a path forward for himself. The light around him begins to fade, and within him, something begins to shift. End of chapter 11. As everything around Elias fades into haze, he understands this door is not like the others. This time he has changed. A price has been paid. He walks forward, not as the man he once was, but as something new. The hourglass still pours its sand, but now it does not mark time. It marks the lost. Chapter 12. The Time Spiral. Setting, Elias steps into a different space, where everything around him becomes hazy and distorted, as if time itself has lost its structure. Shredded fragments of memory float through the air like the broken pages of a story that will never be whole again. The door behind him slowly fades as if it never existed. The ground beneath him twists and coils, forming a spiral. With every step Elias takes, the world becomes more surreal, as though he's entering an endless loop. Opening of the chapter. Elias tries to stay calm, but the space around him keeps shifting. A sparkling waterfall appears ahead, but as he approaches, it morphs into a shattered mirror, reflecting an image of himself standing before the hourglass door. He stares at that image, another version of himself, face blurred, but the eyes, they are his. The voice of the sixth hand echoes again in his mind, distant and disjointed, as if it's coming from another reality entirely. You cannot escape yourself, Elias. Every decision you make brings you into a new spiral. You step through that door thinking you could save them all, but perhaps you've forgotten that time is a circle. Elias steps back, but the ground beneath him sinks, pulling him into a foggy void. It feels like he's being drawn to a place undefined, where space and time lose all meaning. The spiral of time. Elias senses a presence in this place, ancient, immense. It feels like he's entered a void between realities, a liminal space where nothing is permanent and everything can change. Time is no longer a stream, but a whirlpool sucking all things into itself. He searches for an exit, but all he finds are doors, each etched with names of the lost. But these are not ordinary people. They are souls trapped within the spiral. Jonathan, the recorders, and the sixth hand all appear in the swirling space like ghosts, caught in a loop they cannot escape. A new voice speaks, softer, familiar, like a whisper from within Elias himself. You made your choice. But have you ever wondered, what if it was the wrong one? Each time you step through a door, you forge a new timeline, a spiral with no end. Elias watches the souls tangled in this twisted reality. He realizes that his choices don't just affect him. They ripple out, touching everyone he's met on this journey. He cannot save them unless he reshapes the flow of time. But doing so could destroy everything. Encounter with the past. Suddenly, a small door appears before him, unlike any of the others. It has no name, only a strange symbol drawn across it. A spiral, like the one on the hourglass door. Elias feels himself drawn to it. As his hand touches the surface, a vivid memory comes alive. A moment from his past, seeing his mother for the first time as a child. One of the few memories he still holds. As the light from that image glows, the chaos around him falls silent. His mother turns to him, eyes filled with warmth and knowing. She smiles gently and says, "You cannot change the past, Elias. You can only shape the future. He realizes then that what he's facing are not moments he can undo, but consequences of moments he couldn't. Time will not let him rewrite what's already been written. Climax of the chapter. As the image of his mother fades, the spiral surges again, this time with a fierce pull. The last remaining piece of his memory, the joyful moment with his family, is torn away, slipping from his mind. In that instant, a large door appears before him. But this time, there is no choice. The door behind him has closed. He cannot go back. The spiral begins to pull him into a new space, a place with no escape. Elias stands in a dark void, the heavy sense of having lost something vital weighing down on him. His memories are no longer whole, and it seems he has paid the final price for salvation. But can he still reclaim what has been lost? And can the souls of the still zone ever find the freedom they seek? Chapter 13, The Scars of Time. Setting. Elias stands in a hazy realm, similar to what he has seen before, but this time nothing has a distinct shape. Everything seems cracked, as if there are fractures in time and space. Wounds he himself created throughout his journey. The altered memories now drift around him like shattered fragments of an unfinished puzzle. The scenes around him shift constantly, from familiar old streets he once walked to cold, unfamiliar houses he has never stepped into. Strange faces flash in and out of existence, like ghosts he can never quite grasp. Opening of the chapter. Elias looks around, feeling as though he's standing within an immense web of time, with invisible threads pulling everything together. Beneath his feet are old markings, cracks and scratches he's left behind with each decision he made. This space is not invulnerable, but rather a reality torn by his choices. Suddenly, a figure appears, Jonathan. But this is not the friend Elias once knew. Jonathan stands there, his face blurred and distorted, as if he has merged with the fractures of time. His gaze isn't one of compassion, but of deep sorrow, as if he knows all has been irreversibly damaged. Elias, you cannot change everything. Jonathan speaks, his voice low and sorrowful. Do you not see it? The scars you've made are tearing these realities apart. These souls, they cannot rest when time itself is broken. Exploring the scars of time, Elias tries to understand Jonathan's words. Looking around, he begins to see it. Space fracturing piece by piece, each crack a scar in the flow of time. He had altered the past, but every change created parallel realities, each carrying its own uncontrollable consequences. We live in a circle, Jonathan continues, and your choices have torn that circle open. Every time you tampered with the past, the fractures spread, spawning realities that were never meant to exist. A wave of pain rises within Elias. He hadn't truly grasped the weight of his actions. His decisions didn't just affect himself and the trapped souls, but were unraveling the very fabric of space and time with the eraser of time. As Elias is lost in thought, a cold wind sweeps through the void. A woman appears before him, cloaked in gray, her face hidden in shadow, only her glowing eyes visible. She says nothing at first, yet her presence warps the space around them. You have carved scars into time, Elias, she finally speaks, her voice echoing as though from a distant void. You may think you've solved problems in the past, but you forgot something crucial. Time cannot be bent forever. Elias stares at her, feeling as though he's facing a force far greater than anything before. He opens his mouth to speak, but she interrupts him. I am the eraser of time. My duty is to restore balance when someone distorts the flow. But you, Elias, you've gone too far. Your scars have spread across all realities. The trial and the final choice. She raises her hand, and instantly the space around them twists once more. Parallel realities emerge before Elias, visions of alternate lives, each trapped by the choices he made. Souls and specters of past and future reach out to him, pleading for him to fix what's been broken. You can do one of two things, she says. One, erase all these scars, which means forgetting every soul you've encountered and perhaps losing your own existence in time. Or two, keep the memories and the souls, but at the cost of a permanent shift in time itself. Elias feels his heart ache. He cannot go back. He cannot undo what's been done. And yet, he cannot bear to forget everyone. But perhaps, deep down, he already knows what he must do. End of chapter 13. Elias stands between two choices, teetering on the edge of existence. Each decision comes with consequences beyond his understanding. But he knows, no matter what, he must move forward. He cannot run from the scars in time that he has created. Chapter 14, The Rebirth of the Still Zone. Elias stands before the razor-sharp edges of a choice he can no longer avoid. The swirling parallel realities continue to spin around him, each one a fracture in time and space. An unseen force is pressing him into a corner. The eraser of time stands still, her eyes deep and watchful, as if observing every move he makes. The space before Elias begins to shift, transforming from hazy fragments of light and shadow into a desolate land, a place he can't quite remember ever seeing before. It is the Still Zone, a realm where time seems to have no hold. Opening of the chapter. You cannot alter the past without paying the price. The eraser of time speaks again, her voice like a whisper from the depths of an abyss. But if you choose to mend the scars you've created, you must sacrifice your very existence. Not just yours, but those of the souls you've encountered. This rebirth, this restoration, will erase everything you know and usher in a new era. Elias remains silent, merely watching. He knows all too well that time has never been a simple flow. It is a dense network of connections and choices, where every alteration demands a cost. The gathering of souls, but in that stillness, the souls of the Still Zone begin to appear around Elias. They wear the tattered robes of old memories, each one a part of his journey. A girl with sorrowful eyes looks at him. Then comes Jonathan, the friend who had walked with him through much of his path. "You're near the end of the road, Elias," Jonathan says, his eyes filled with melancholy. "But whatever you choose, you can never escape the scars you've left behind. We are all part of this cycle. But what more can you do when everything is already spinning out of control?" The souls surrounding Elias begin to speak the same words, like a chorus echoing through past and present. We cannot go back, but we can move forward. The words strike deep into Elias. He understands now he cannot rewrite the past without unraveling all that once was. But he also realizes that moving forward is the only way anything can be saved. The rebirth of the Still Zone. Once more, the eraser of time raises her hand. The scars in time begin to connect, stitch by stitch. The space around Elias shifts once again, slowly transforming into a new landscape, like the resurrection of a world long lost. The Still Zone, once shredded by distortion, now begins its slow rebirth. But this rebirth is not a full restoration. Images of the past fade away, replaced by signs of a future Elias cannot yet recognize. Everything is changing. And with that change, a creeping fear begins to rise within him. If he chooses to repair everything, he will have to erase every memory, every soul he encountered, every life he touched, and every decision he made. But if he lets this chance slip away, the scars will spread endlessly, and the Still Zone will be consumed entirely. In that moment, Elias faces an agonizing war within his own mind. He can feel the pull of transformation, but also the unbearable pain of letting go of the memories he cherishes. If he chooses restoration, will he ever find those values again? Or will he be trapped in a new world where nothing is familiar? He looks to the souls around him, each one having walked their own path. A small soul, perhaps a fragment of his own memory, turns and smiles at him. "We are all tiny pieces in this turning wheel, Elias. But you can't remain in the past forever. You have to move forward, no matter what." The final choice. Elias's mind swirls in chaos. But then, a single thought crystallizes. The past cannot be changed. He now understands that in the flow of time, nothing is permanent. Everything can be destroyed or reborn, but the cost is always sacrifice. Elias steadies himself, looks the eraser of time in the eye, and says, "I choose to move forward. Let the Still Zone be reborn, but give every soul, every person, a chance to live again in a new world." The eraser of time says nothing, but she nods. The final door in the warped space slowly creaks open, and a blinding light pours through it, pulling everything, Elias, the souls, the fractures, into a new realm, one where time is no longer bound by scars. End of Chapter 14. The Still Zone, the place where everything began and ended, has now been forever changed. But Elias understands this is not an ending. It is the beginning of a new journey, one where he will seek the answers to questions he had never dared to face before. The Reborn Souls. Setting: After choosing to move forward, Elias feels a profound shift in space and time. The still zone, once the birthplace of everything and controlled by the scars of time, is no longer a dead space. Instead, it has become a new land where everything seems to be alive again. But this new life carries an unfamiliar feeling, as if the reborn souls are still searching for the purpose of their existence. Opening of the chapter. Elias awakens in a vast, desolate field where once only darkness and stillness existed. Now, the area is bathed in the warm glow of a new morning. He looks around and realizes he is no longer in the old still zone. The traces of time have been erased, yet worry lingers in his heart for the souls he brought back. He stands, feeling the cold earth beneath his feet, and walks forward. Each step echoes like a beckoning call, leading him toward a small village in the distance. Wooden houses with weathered tile roofs, ordinary people moving about, but something in their eyes seems off. The encounter with reborn souls. As Elias enters the village, he sees a group of people standing in a courtyard, staring at him. Familiar faces, yet not the same ones he once knew. These are the reborn souls, now wearing new forms, unaware of what came before. Suddenly, a woman steps toward Elias. Her long hair flows in the breeze, and her eyes shine as if she has glimpsed all of Elias's memories. "You're the one who brought us back, aren't you?" she asks, her voice soft but filled with sorrow. "You're the one who pulled us from darkness into light." Elias nods, pain welling up inside him. The souls had returned, but they hadn't escaped the marks of the past. They remembered nothing of what had happened, but a strange sorrow clung to them, as though they were suffering from something they couldn't quite explain. "But can we truly live new lives?" the woman continues, her eyes filled with emptiness. "Can we exist without the wounds of our past, without those painful memories?" Elias doesn't answer right away. He looks around and sees other souls watching him too, their eyes filled with both hope and fear. One thing is clear. Though they had been reborn, they remain trapped by echoes of what once was. Uncovering the past and lingering pain. Elias continues walking through the village. The deeper he goes, the more he realizes that, though outwardly reborn, each soul carries a silent sorrow. Each one holds a wound that hasn't healed, a memory that still aches. He approaches a group gathered around a fire. They don't speak, just stare into the flames with haunted eyes. An older man stands and walks up to Elias, his face marked by the wear of time. "You know," the man says, his voice low and heavy, "things can never go back to the way they were. We've returned, yes, but our spirits are still trapped. We can't live like normal people, not when our minds are still haunted. The scars you left behind, those can't be erased." Elias is silent, feeling the sorrow of these souls as if it were an open wound within his own heart. He had believed their rebirth would bring redemption. But now, he understands that wounds of the soul cannot be so easily healed. A dream of Jonathan. That night, under a star-filled sky, Elias dreams of Jonathan. But this time, Jonathan is not the friend he once knew. He is a blurry figure standing in the middle of a lonely field. "You couldn't save them all, could you?" Jonathan's voice carries on the wind. People can live again, but the past still chases them, whether they want it or not. Elias tries to run to him, but Jonathan fades into mist and vanishes completely. All that remains is the emptiness in Elias's chest. Elias's decision. Elias wakes with a newfound resolve. He realizes that rebirth is not liberation. It is the beginning of a healing journey. The souls cannot simply forget the past, but they can learn to live with it, and Elias now sees that he can help them do just that. He returns to the woman in the village, the one who had asked if they could live again. She gazes at him with hopeful eyes. "We can begin again," Elias says, his voice firm. "But this beginning isn't about forgetting. We must live with the past, but we can learn to make peace with it. Together, we'll find a way forward." End of chapter 15. That small village, though still filled with unhealed pain, begins to sprout seeds of hope. The reborn souls are no longer mere shadows of their past, but people with new aspirations. And Elias, no longer just the bringer of life, has become a guide, helping them discover the path toward healing and wholeness. Chapter 15. The Reborn Souls. Setting. After choosing to move forward, Elias feels a profound shift in space and time. The still zone, once the birthplace of everything and controlled by the scars of time, is no longer a dead space. Instead, it has become a new land where everything seems to be alive again. But this new life carries an unfamiliar feeling, as if the reborn souls are still searching for the purpose of their existence. Opening of the chapter. Elias awakens in a vast, desolate field where once only darkness and stillness existed. Now, the area is bathed in the warm glow of a new morning. He looks around and realizes he is no longer in the old still zone. The traces of time have been erased, yet worry lingers in his heart for the souls he brought back. He stands, feeling the cold earth beneath his feet, and walks forward. Each step echoes like a beckoning call, leading him toward a small village in the distance. Wooden houses with weathered tile roofs, ordinary people moving about, but something in their eyes seems off. The encounter with reborn souls. As Elias enters the village, he sees a group of people standing in a courtyard, staring at him. Familiar faces, yet not the same ones he once knew. These are the reborn souls, now wearing new forms, unaware of what came before. Suddenly, a woman steps toward Elias. Her long hair flows in the breeze, and her eyes shine as if she has glimpsed all of Elias's memories. "You're the one who brought us back, aren't you?" she asks, her voice soft but filled with sorrow. "You're the one who pulled us from darkness into light." Elias nods, pain welling up inside him. The souls had returned, but they hadn't escaped the marks of the past. They remembered nothing of what had happened, but a strange sorrow clung to them, as though they were suffering from something they couldn't quite explain. "But can we truly live new lives?" the woman continues, her eyes filled with emptiness. "Can we exist without the wounds of our past, without those painful memories?" Elias doesn't answer right away. He looks around and sees other souls watching him too, their eyes filled with both hope and fear. One thing is clear. Though they had been reborn, they remain trapped by echoes of what once was. Uncovering the past and lingering pain. Elias continues walking through the village. The deeper he goes, the more he realizes that, though outwardly reborn, each soul carries a silent sorrow. Each one holds a wound that hasn't healed, a memory that still aches. He approaches a group gathered around a fire. They don't speak, just stare into the flames with haunted eyes. An older man stands and walks up to Elias, his face marked by the wear of time. "You know," the man says, his voice low and heavy, "things can never go back to the way they were. We've returned, yes, but our spirits are still trapped. We can't live like normal people, not when our minds are still haunted. The scars you left behind, those can't be erased." Elias is silent, feeling the sorrow of these souls as if it were an open wound within his own heart. He had believed their rebirth would bring redemption. But now, he understands that wounds of the soul cannot be so easily healed. A dream of Jonathan. That night, under a star-filled sky, Elias dreams of Jonathan. But this time, Jonathan is not the friend he once knew. He is a blurry figure standing in the middle of a lonely field. "You couldn't save them all, could you?" Jonathan's voice carries on the wind. People can live again, but the past still chases them, whether they want it or not. Elias tries to run to him, but Jonathan fades into mist and vanishes completely. All that remains is the emptiness in Elias's chest. Elias's decision. Elias wakes with a newfound resolve. He realizes that rebirth is not liberation. It is the beginning of a healing journey. The souls cannot simply forget the past, but they can learn to live with it, and Elias now sees that he can help them do just that. He returns to the woman in the village, the one who had asked if they could live again. She gazes at him with hopeful eyes. "We can begin again," Elias says, his voice firm. "But this beginning isn't about forgetting. We must live with the past, but we can learn to make peace with it. Together, we'll find a way forward." End of chapter 15. That small village, though still filled with unhealed pain, begins to sprout seeds of hope. The reborn souls are no longer mere shadows of their past, but people with new aspirations. And Elias, no longer just the bringer of life, has become a guide, helping them discover the path toward healing and wholeness. Chapter 16. Harmony with the Past. Over the past few days, Elias has guided the reborn souls in adapting to their new lives. Outwardly, things seem to be settling, but Elias can still sense the lingering torment in their eyes. They may live again, but the past continues to haunt them, every memory, every old pain clinging tightly. The question remains, can they ever truly find peace within their souls, or will they be forever trapped by their history? Chapter opening. Elias stands in the heart of a lush green forest, ancient trees rising around him, forming a sanctuary of silence. He has led the reborn souls here, hoping they might find a moment of peace. The group sits in a circle around a small fire, its dancing flames casting flickering light on their anxious faces. Though reborn, they remain tethered to their painful memories. "We can't keep running forever," Elias says, his voice soft but resolute. "These memories, they're part of us. We must learn to live with them, not let them control us." An older man rises to his feet. His eyes are tired, weathered by countless emotions, but within them lies a stubborn spark of determination. "You're right," the man says, his voice low and heavy. "But how do we live with memories that still tear us apart?" Elias doesn't answer immediately. He knows that to find harmony with the past, they must first confront it head-on, something far from easy. Confronting the memories. Silence falls over the group, each person drifting into their own thoughts. Elias then leads them on a journey into a realm of memory, a place where each of them must face the events they have long buried deep within. The first to step forward is the woman Elias had met in the village. She stands still, her eyes shimmering with unspoken grief, reflecting the weight of her past. She begins to speak of her life before rebirth, of a family lost, of a tragic love she could never forget. "I lost everything," she whispers, her voice trembling. "My husband, my child, everything I ever cared about. And I did something I can't forgive myself for." Elias watches her quietly, offering no interruption. He knows how hard it is to admit the truth of one's mistakes, yet he also knows that facing them is the first step toward release. "Let the pain in," he says gently. "Let yourself feel it. Understand it. Don't try to erase it, because the past shapes who we are. It helps us grow stronger." She looks at him, tears in her eyes, but a faint smile begins to form. The pain hasn't vanished, but for the first time she can carry it without letting it consume her. Others face their pasts. One by one, the other souls step into the realm of memory. Each must confront the shadows of their history, regrets, failures, the moments they tried to forget. A man, once a warrior, faces the ghosts of the battlefield. He sees again the faces of the innocent, the blood on his hands, the choices that broke him. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he says hoarsely, "but I can't undo what I've done." Elias approaches and places a hand on his shoulder. "You can't change the past," he says, "but you can change how you carry it. You are not your mistakes. You are what you choose to become from this moment forward." Though the wounds remain, Elias's words begin to mend what was once thought unhealable. Slowly, they all start to understand that peace isn't found in forgetting. It's found in acceptance. Healing and harmony. Days pass as the souls continue their journey inward. The transformation is subtle, but unmistakable. The bitterness fades, regret softens. In its place grows understanding and forgiveness. They begin to love themselves again, to embrace not just who they are, but who they've been. Elias watches them, sensing the change in each of them. Faces once burdened by sorrow now wear tentative smiles. Eyes once dark with regret now hold a glimmer of hope. Chapter ending. Elias stands atop a hill, gazing out over the horizon as the morning sun rises higher, bathing the world in golden light. He knows the journey is far from over. But for now, the souls he has helped have found something precious, harmony within themselves. The past is no longer a weight dragging them down, but a part of the story they've lived through and grown from. Chapter 7 of Rebirth. Setting. After the souls began to harmonize with their past and found peace within, Elias sensed a great shift in the space around them. Though these souls had set foot on the path of rebirth, signs of darkness still lingered, threatening to undo everything they had built. A hidden force was quietly interfering with the process of renewal. Chapter opening. Elias and the group of reborn souls continued their journey, following a path that led them through unfamiliar lands. They had overcome many trials, but something about today felt different. Dark clouds began to gather, and a sudden chill swept through the air. It was as if the world was preparing for a storm, but not one of nature. One of the souls, the elderly man, sensed the change. He turned to Elias, concern in his eyes. "Something is wrong," he said. "I can feel the presence of darkness." Elias remained silent, but in his heart, he too felt the creeping threat. The peace the souls had found could be fleeting if this shadow was not cast away. The emergence of the dark force. As the group crossed an ancient forest, the ground began to tremble beneath their feet. A wave of darkness swept over them, bringing with it distant haunting screams. Everything blurred into gloom, and the shadow did not just veil the land, it crept into the hearts of the souls. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the mist, a shapeless entity with burning red eyes. It stood there watching them, as if it had been waiting. "You think you can be reborn and escape the chains of your past?" A voice boomed from the darkness, cold and ominous. "You cannot rewrite fate. There is a curse you cannot escape." Elias couldn't see the creature's face, but he could feel its presence, an ancient, twisted force determined to drag them back into their sorrow. Around him, the reborn souls trembled, fear rising within them once again. The battle against darkness. Elias stepped forward, his eyes filled with unwavering determination. "We've endured unimaginable pain to earn this rebirth," Elias said, his voice echoing through the darkness. "We will not let you take it from us." As soon as his words ended, the shadow lashed out, sweeping toward them with a violent gust of wind. Panic spread, but Elias moved to the center of the chaos, arms outstretched. He could feel a pure energy building within him. He had guided them here, and now he would protect them. Elias began to chant an ancient incantation, one passed down from the souls who had already let go of their past burdens. As his words filled the air, radiant light burst from his hands, cutting through the darkness like lightning through a stormy sky. The dark creature roared, unable to withstand the purity of the light born from rebirth. But it would not give up easily. It twisted itself into a monstrous form, a giant beast with long, clawed limbs reaching to devour everything in sight. "You cannot fight me," it sneered. "Rebirth is an illusion. You cannot escape your fate." Aid from the reborn souls. As Elias's strength began to wane, something extraordinary happened. The reborn souls, those he had helped find peace, rose to join him in battle. The former warrior, who once took lives on the battlefield, stood tall, his weapon in hand, eyes blazing with resolve. "We have found peace," he said, "and we will not let old wounds drag us back. This is our new path, and we will defend it." Others followed, their strength joining with Elias's light. Together, they formed a wave of radiance, driving back the darkness. The woman Elias first met in the village stood at the heart of the light, her pain transformed into strength, lending her spirit to the group. Together, they fought the darkness. The past could not be undone, but through unity and courage, they summoned a power stronger than any shadow. Chapter ending. At last, the darkness shattered, and the creature let out a final, echoing scream before vanishing into nothingness. Elias and his companions stood firm, weary but victorious. The skies cleared, and peace returned. Elias looked ahead toward the road still unfolding before them. They had overcome a tremendous trial, but he knew the journey was far from over. More challenges awaited, but for now they had proven that rebirth was not just a physical transformation, it was a journey of the soul. Here's the English translation of Chapter 18, New Trials, New Trials. Setting. Although Elias and the group of reborn souls had triumphed over the dark force in the previous battle, they knew the road ahead would not be easy. The new world they were building was still full of unseen challenges. The darkness had not been completely vanquished. Secrets remained hidden, truths left untold, and Elias sensed that they would soon face trials far more brutal than anything they had encountered. Opening scene. The sky was clear again today, yet tension hung heavily over the group. They were moving through a strange land where life seemed to be waiting for some new sign. Towering ancient trees loomed around them, their dense foliage casting shadows that blocked the sunlight, creating an atmosphere both majestic and mysterious. Elias paused, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. A strong gust of wind swept past, carrying with it a strange scent, earthy, yet oddly unfamiliar, as if some invisible presence was watching them. "Something's not right," said the woman in the group, the one who had found peace with her past. "It feels like we're being watched." Elias nodded. He, too, could feel the shift in the air, as if they had stepped into a realm that didn't belong to this world. The emergence of new forces. As the group ventured deeper into the forest, a blinding light suddenly erupted, forcing them to shield their eyes. When the glow faded, they found themselves standing before an ancient gate, its surface carved with strange runes. It looked like nothing they had seen before, more like a hidden portal, a bridge between past and future. A voice echoed from the unseen, powerful and commanding. You have come here with purpose, but are you truly ready to face the trials this world has set for you? From the shadows emerged a mysterious being, its form a shifting blend of ghost, monster, and ancient deity. Its face was obscured, but two glowing red eyes burned through the darkness. We are the guardians of this gate, it said. You have passed many trials, but the ones ahead may be beyond what your spirits can endure. Despite the ominous presence, Elias stood firm, unshaken. We're not here to flee, he replied calmly. We're here to be reborn. Tell us what must be done. The creature let out a soft, unsettling laugh, both cryptic and challenging. Then are you willing to pass through this gate, to face trials that test not only your strength, but your patience, your mind, and your courage? The first trial, the path of sacrifice. With no other choice, Elias and the group stepped through the gate. They knew the trials ahead would not be easy and might awaken their deepest fears. Once inside, they found themselves in a disorienting world where nothing obeyed logic. Paths split and twisted unexpectedly. Invisible walls appeared at random, preventing them from advancing easily. Elias noticed something strange. As they tried to move forward, their strength began to wane. An emptiness crept through their bodies, as if something essential was being taken from them. It feels like we're losing a part of ourselves, the warrior man said. Like we're being asked to sacrifice something. Elias nodded, realizing the nature of this first trial. Sacrifice. They would have to let go of what they cherished most, the things they had clung to, in order to continue on this path. We must surrender a part of ourselves to move forward, Elias said firmly. What has passed can't follow us into the future. Each reborn soul began to face a personal trial. The woman who had lost her family was forced to relive those painful memories. She had to decide if she could finally let go of her grief. Trials of the mind and heart. Meanwhile, other souls faced questions about identity and purpose. They were challenged to confront doubts about their existence and the meaning behind their rebirth. Their minds were tested, shaken to the core. One soul, a fallen warrior, became haunted by visions of the battlefield where he had died. Can I change what's already happened? He whispered, anxiety in his voice. Can I ever truly find peace? Elias and the others had to find the strength to push through, not with brute force, but with spirit and resilience. End of chapter 18. After enduring the harsh trials, the group finally emerged from the first test, and the gate before them opened once more. But they knew this was only the beginning. The trials ahead would be even more demanding. The sky above remained bright, but Elias understood now that every step forward could bring a new war. Could they overcome them all to reach true rebirth? Let me know if you'd like the script version for narration or visuals next. Chapter 19. The Path of Darkness. After overcoming the trial of sacrifice, Elias and the reborn souls now face a land shrouded in darkness unlike anything they've encountered. It is a place where all signs of life seem to have been devoured by shadow, where no light penetrates and all paths appear to lead nowhere. Every soul here feels a growing uncertainty, unsure if a way out even exists. Chapter opening. They pass through an ancient gate guarded by a thick veil of mist. Upon entering, a chill wrapped around their bodies. The ground beneath them was not solid, but soft and swampy, ready to swallow anything that dared to tread upon it. Around them stood trees stripped of leaves, reduced to withered stumps, as if tortured for centuries. The sun could not pierce this place, and only dark clouds blanketed the sky above. Elias looked up, sensing a strange stillness. Although the group could hear faint echoes in the air, the source of the sounds remained elusive. This place is devoid of life, the old woman whispered. Have we wandered into hell? Elias gazed ahead. They had not come this far to turn back. They had a mission to fulfill. He could sense a lurking presence in the shadows, like something unseen trailing their every step. We can't go back, Elias said firmly. "We have to keep moving forward." Just as he finished speaking, a strange noise echoed behind them. Footsteps, not from anyone in their group, resonated through the fog. They were light, almost gliding, like someone or something was watching from the dark. The appearance of ghostly spirits. A sudden gust of cold wind swept through, carrying dried leaves and dust. The air grew heavier, and from within the darkness, shadowy figures began to emerge. These were not reborn souls, but forgotten spirits, those who had never found peace and still lingered in this forsaken land. One of them, a man draped in a black cloak, approached the group. His face was obscured, his form blurred, glowing with a pale, eerie light. "You cannot pass through this place," the ghost spoke in a chilling voice. "This is where the past is trapped, where no soul escapes." Elias realized this was their second trial, the burden of the past. To move forward, they would have to confront these lost souls, spirits still haunted by unresolved pain. This challenge threatened not just their physical strength, but their emotional resilience and mental fortitude. "We have risen beyond the past," Elias answered with unwavering eyes. "We do not fear these phantoms." But the spirits would not retreat so easily. They began to drift into the shadows, conjuring hallucinations that unsettled the group. One of the former warriors, who had once taken lives in battle, suddenly froze. His eyes locked on a haunting vision only he could see. "What I've done," the warrior murmured. "I can't undo it. I can't forgive myself." Facing the shadows within, each soul began to confront personal ghosts. A young soldier who had died in battle now stood amidst a bloodied field, surrounded by fallen comrades calling his name, pleading for release. A woman who had lost her family in a disaster was forced to relive that moment, the faces of her loved ones fading into the void as she stood helplessly. Elias saw the fear in their eyes. He knew that if they couldn't overcome these visions, the past would consume them, and they would never find the path forward. "We cannot let the past rule us," Elias said, voice steady and resolute. "We are not who we were. We've changed." As he spoke, Elias raised his hand, and from his palm radiated a bright light, illuminating the surrounding darkness. The ghosts began to retreat, though their laughter and sorrowful sighs still echoed ominously. Release and the opening of the next door. As Elias' light grew stronger, the ghostly figures gradually dissipated, leaving behind a clearer space. The souls in Elias's group began to find their composure once more, though it was clear that the pain within them had not completely healed. They pressed forward, and suddenly a strange light flickered in the distance. A new door materialized. Beyond it lay another realm, one that shimmered with the promise of light and hope. "That's the next step," the old woman said. "We have to walk through it and continue our journey." Elias nodded. He knew they had conquered this trial, but the road ahead would be no less treacherous. The souls would have to continue facing themselves, and Elias too would have to confront his own past. End of chapter 19. The door closed behind them as Elias and his group stepped into a new realm. Though they had no way of knowing what awaited them, they had overcome another piece of their long journey. They pressed onward, no turning back, and no path behind them. Chapter 20, The Path to Freedom. Setting, after countless trials, Elias and the reborn souls finally reach their ultimate destination. They stand before a vast door, shimmering in a realm where light and darkness intertwine. This is the final path, where they must confront all that has come before and choose their own future. Can they overcome their deepest fears to find true freedom? Opening of the chapter. The sky is no longer a dull gray. Instead, it's a strange space where light and shadow blur, coexisting in a surreal harmony. In front of the group stretches a wide path, but ancient moss-covered stones and drifting clouds signal that the way ahead will not be easy. Elias looks forward. They don't know what lies ahead, but he senses a quiet unease in the air. The souls around him are silent, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation. "This is the final place," Elias says, his voice echoing in the stillness. "Where we decide our fate." The warrior, once bathed in the blood of many battles, turns to his companions. "Perhaps this is where we face our greatest fears," he says. "If we can't conquer them, can we ever truly be free?" Confronting the self, they move forward, and suddenly the ground trembles beneath their feet. A flash of intense light blinds them, and when it fades, they find themselves in a different realm entirely. Strange silhouettes loom around them, and illusions begin to take shape. Each soul now stands face to face with a version of themselves, their truest fears and haunting memories. These are not enemies, but reflections of the burdens they've carried: fear of failure, regrets of the past, and the consequences of choices long made. The old woman sees her former self, a mother helplessly watching the death of her child. The child stands before her, eyes filled with silent accusation. "I couldn't save you," she whispers, tears falling freely. "I can't undo the past." Elias sees himself in a dark battlefield, surrounded by the fallen. He feels the crushing weight of guilt. What once were victories now feel like wounds upon his soul. "What have I done?" he asks, voice trembling. "How do I atone for this?" Battle with inner darkness. Every soul must face the darkness within. This is not a fight against outside forces, but a war with their own shadows: pain, regret, and self-judgment made manifest. These are no simple visions. They are living echoes of what once was, challenging each soul to confront the truth without breaking. "We cannot change what has passed," the warrior says, eyes filled with clarity, "but we can choose how we live with it." Elias nods. He realizes that the past can't be rewritten, but they can learn, grow, and make different choices ahead. This is the freedom they've sought. Not freedom from the past, but freedom from its chains. The final battle, the path to freedom. As each soul accepts their truth, light begins to radiate from within them. They no longer need to fight each other or external threats. The final battle was always about facing themselves, accepting their flaws, and moving forward unburdened. Elias stands tall. No longer paralyzed by guilt or fear, he walks steadily into the final light. The group follows, and as they pass through, the last great door opens, ushering them into a new space untouched by darkness or dread. Ending the chapter and the journey. As the door closes behind them, the reborn souls feel something lift. They haven't just escaped their past, they've made peace with it. The trials and suffering weren't in vain. They were the path to inner peace. Freedom, they realize, isn't the absence of pain. It's the ability to live with truth and still choose hope. Elias turns to his companions. These are no longer lost spirits. They are reborn, not only in body, but in spirit. "We found the path to freedom," Elias says softly, but with strength. "We're not going back." Conclusion. Elias and the reborn souls complete their journey not with a violent war, but with personal redemption. They conquer darkness not through power or force, but through acceptance and transformation. That is the true freedom they have sought. Their journey ends, but life, in all its mystery and hope, continues on.